welcome and good evening. It's This Is Going Well, I Think, with David Cooper. I am David Cooper. It's This Is Going Well, I Think, the show where no one's listening, no one cares, the show where every episode's the last episode. It's Friday. I hope you didn't have a flight booked today because outages. These airlines were running Microsoft computers and their whole networks are down. And what a clusterfuck. Okay, the show. Here is what's coming up. In 10 minutes' time, have you ever wanted to understand what your dog is saying? Well, researchers at the University of Michigan are using artificial intelligence to find out what Rover is saying when Rover barks. We'll talk to a researcher on that study. After that, my friend, comedian Natasha Vinik. We're going to discuss comedy roasts because, well, I have to perform one next week, and I do need help writing for it. So I'm using this show to get free comedy writing advice and men who play guitars rather than play with their partners. Natasha's got a complaint, and I'm looking forward to hearing about it. After that, we talked about it yesterday. We're doing it today. Great days in internet history. Those are memes. Those are viral videos. Those are great moments when the internet was just fantastic for a given day. I'll cover that with foreign correspondent Tony 5, and we'll go through a list of the best events that ever happened on the best internet days ever. And finally, a recent study says that men with beards are better partners. Quite frankly, they stick around longer. They won't leave you. We'll talk to bearded man Tony Tedesco. He's a producer at the iHeartRadio Talk Network in Canada about what it's like being a bearded man. That's the show. I'm looking forward to doing it. But first, this. My first news item will pinch your heart. It's the story of a lovable lobster named Crush, who miraculously dodged the dinner plate. Now, let's imagine you were Crush. You're a lobster, you're hanging out in the cold waters off of Canada, minding your own goddamn business, when suddenly you're shipped to a Red Lobster in Pueblo, Colorado. For most lobsters, that's where the story ends. Boiled and buttered on the dinner plate, but not Crush, because Crush is a special lobster. Crush is the color of lobsters after they're cooked. He's unique, a rare lobster born orange. Now, Crush was spotted by a sharp-eyed dishwasher who happens to also be the head biscuit maker at this particular Red Lobster. The bright orange crustacean stood out like a nun at a strip club. Like a real nun, not like a sexy nun. Now, the staff at this restaurant, being die-hard Denver Broncos fans, named the lobster Crush after the legendary Orange Crush defense that I have no idea what that is because football? Meh. Personally, I would have gone with something a little snappier, like Orange Lobster Teeny. Now, the race was on to find a good home for this lobster because the dinner plate, not so much. When the city zoo gave a hard pass, the restaurant called the Downtown Aquarium in Denver, and they jumped at the opportunity of adopting Crush. So the restaurant packed the lobster with ice packs and shipped him over. What a cool ride. Our orange hero arrived at the aquarium and immediately began exploring his new digs. The staff even set up a tank with Denver Broncos helmets, both old ones and new ones, so he can train for his defensive line. If only. Imagine the headlines. Lobster sacks quarterback, causing shell shock. After a 30-day quarantine, Crush will join the Lurks exhibit with other cold water North Atlantic species. And he'll be the toast of the tank. The aquarium's general curator said they're thrilled to share this rare lobster with visitors. Now, Crush's origin story, he came all the way from a supplier in Tennessee after being caught off the coast of Canada. I'm told that genetic mutations can turn lobsters orange, blue, or yellow. It's a lobster pride parade. So the next time you're at the Denver Aquarium, that is if you ever go to the Denver Aquarium, wave hello to Crush for me. He's the orange one, living it up while his buddies aren't so lucky. Because remember, not every lobster gets a second chance. Some just end up in hot water. And in extraterrestrial news, a bunch of smarty-pants scientists from Harvard and Montana Tech have come up with something called the crypto-terrestrial hypothesis. And no, this isn't some ancient history lecture. It's about UFOs, or as they now say, UAPs, unidentified anomalous phenomena. So here's what I want to tell you about. These scientists at Harvard are suggesting that maybe, just maybe, these UAPs aren't coming from little green men from Mars. No, they might just be coming from here on Earth. Yes, advanced civilizations could be hiding among us. At last, this is what happened to Atlantis. The study's authors dove into all kinds of reports and sightings. They looked at UAPs over military bases, undersea hideouts, and even the dark side of the moon. They're saying we should keep an open mind. And since they're from Harvard, maybe we should listen. Maybe those weirdos in tinfoil hats are on to something. But here's a thought. If these beings are in fact walking among us, passing off as humans, that may well explain some odd family members you have. That explains my mother, my grandmother, my grandfather, my brother, my sister, my other brother, pretty much all of them. Seriously, though, the study calls for more than just looking into the skies. It's urging scientists to consider all possibilities. I mean, after all, isn't that what science is? Looking at all possibilities and then outruling them. But don't get too excited. The study's authors admit themselves they don't think this hypothesis is necessarily true. They just want to get those scientific wheels turning. They merely want to suggest aliens are living among us, investigate it, and then possibly rule it out. So the next time you see a UFO, don't think just ET. Think ultra-terrestrial, as the study suggests. These nerds say it could be anything from interdimensional beings to future human time travelers, even angels or religious beings from various religious texts. Or maybe the lost Atlanteans. So whether it's space invaders or cryptic Earth dwellers, I think the moral of this paper is keep everything on the table. And if you do, you might just discover that the truth really is out there. Or, in this case, right here. Gather round and listen to this story before it slips away. If you don't like snakes, you'll love this story. And by that I mean it'll horrify you. But if you do like snakes, no judgment. Last Friday, a hard-working crew at Albany Water in New York was doing their usual pipe maintenance. Just a typical day of fixing the 48-inch water main at the Tivoli Preserve. That's where New York's capital, Albany, gets its water. But instead of the crew just finding the usual gunk and grime, they stumbled on something a little more constricting. Because a 14-foot boa constrictor was living inside said water main. I've heard of snakes in the pants, never snakes in the pipes. Now I bet these plumbers thought they had seen it all. But maybe this discovery had them hissing with laughter, or just hissing in general. Albany Water posted the news on social media, but they tucked this boa constrictor revelation into a minor footnote, like it was no big deal. It's almost like they said, oh, by the way, we found a giant snake in the water main while covering other business. Casual, right? Maybe a little more rare than a quarter in a couch cushion. This discovery could swallow you whole if it felt like it. Probably. Albany Water called in the State Department of Environmental Conservation to handle the situation, and thank goodness for that. Hand it off to the professionals. No one wants to explain to their boss that they're late for work because they had to wrestle a 14-foot snake. The water department assured everybody that the incident will not affect the city's water supply. So if your shower suddenly feels a bit tighter, don't worry, it's just your imagination, or maybe the snake's cousin came to visit. And if you're thinking, how does a boa constrictor end up in a water main in Albany? Well, who f***ing knows? Officials said nothing about how it got there, but you know how it is, moving from the woods to the big city. It's a jungle out there. So just be careful. Next time you turn on your faucet, you might get more than just water. But cheers to clean and snake-free drinking water. One of the great accomplishments of modern society. Coming up next, is your dog as smart as you think they are? And if they are, what would they be saying to you? Well, researchers at the University of Michigan are decoding what your dog is saying using artificial intelligence. And I'm going to talk to one of those people up next. Is your dog as smart as you think she is? And what is your dog trying to say to you? Researchers at the University of Michigan are now studying how artificial intelligence could try to decode your dog's communication. I am here with Rada Mihalcea, professor of electrical engineering and computer science at University of Michigan, to discuss. Rada, thanks for talking to me today. I appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.
So give us a brief overview of why your team decided to use AI to try to understand what dogs are saying to us.
Well, I think there is a lot of very interesting stuff that animals do that we don't know. Intelligence being one of them. And it's not only dogs, it's animals broadly. And I believe through better communication, we should be able to form that channel that would allow us to learn more about those other forms of intelligence. And so more broadly, we are interested in understanding animal communication. And I think AI is a good way to go about that. And we stumble upon dogs, for one, because Several of the authors of the paper are passionate about dogs and love dogs, but also more pragmatically because we are fortunate to collaborate with a group in Mexico who had the kind of data that we needed for this research. So as in other research with AI, data is key.
Yeah.
And so even if we would be interested in studying other animals, eventually we do need to go after those species for which we can get data, and dogs was.
So I have a rudimentary understanding of how these AI models are trained. You take sort of good data, you make a big set of it, and then you compare new data, and it sort of uses the good data to extrapolate and figure it out, sort of like a training set. How do you know what dogs are trying to say to collect your sort of baseline of data? Like this vocalization means that, this vocalization means that, or is my understanding of it all wrong? I guess my question is, how do you know what a dog is trying to say based on its noise, and then going from a computer to listen to that noise to say, hey, the dog says I'm hungry or something like that?
Well, that's one of the things that I think it's super cool and interesting, and also requires to turn things upside down when we talk about animal communication, because you cannot really ask dogs, for instance, what did you just say? And I take a note of that. And then next time I try to predict that and say, well, the AI is doing a good job because it's predicting what the dog intended. So rather, you have to think differently. And in this case, we really associated the dog sounds with the context where they were in. And eventually, this is what humans do too. We don't really talk about that too much, but we use these words now between you and I because we are in this particular context. And so a lot is tied to the context. And so we've done the same thing. Eventually, the group in Mexico did that when they collected the data. So they had the dogs in certain situations, like, for instance, playing, and then recorded the sounds that they were making when they were visibly playing, or when they were attacking someone, or when they were angry, or so. What we ended up doing is trying to learn the association between the dog sounds and the context where they were in. So we didn't make any assumptions like this bark means that, but rather try to predict the context.
Can you make the leap for saying, like, for example, if a dog makes a certain noise while it's playing, can you then make a leap and say, hey, if my dog makes this noise and they're not playing, that they want to play? Or is that too much of a leap when analyzing these noises?
Well, I think this is actually a big question, and I won't take you there. So it's the difference between correlation and causation. If I were to say we can make that leap, I'm sure there will be people who say like, oh, what is she saying? Like, we really just observe correlations. But I think eventually with more research, we could be able to make that leap to infer causation, that these sounds means that the dog is intending to play. For right now, we really just observe the correlation between the dog sounds and the situation they were in.
And there's some utility in studying it anyway, and then you see if it's connected, and then you work backwards to see if there's correlation or causation. Or maybe, I don't know. This is why I'm a bad scientist. Is there a similarity between speech processing models for human beings to the ones used for animals, or is this still just very exploratory?
Well, and I'm glad you asked that. I won't answer your question directly, but I think one challenge that we have with animal communication is what I mentioned before, is the lack of data. And it's really very challenging also because it's less straightforward than with humans in terms of labeling, in terms of collection and so forth. And so for training these, like sort of the latest and greatest, which are the neural networks, deep learning algorithms, you do need a lot of data. And like I said, this data took a long time to collect, and still it's not comparable to what are the other data sets that we have, for instance, for human speech. So what we had, which was really the intuition of the first author on this work, Artyom Abzaliev. So he led this work, and he also had this idea, can we pre-train on human speech? So rather than training the algorithm from scratch on the data that we have from dogs, we said, well, first we pre-training, we kind of prepare the algorithm so it's not completely blank slate. It learns something. And we did that with a lot of human speech because we have it.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, we eventually used the dog sounds, and that turned out to be actually helpful. And I think that's interesting because it means that we can leverage some of the other sounds we have, in our case, it's a lot of human sounds, to make way into other animal communication.
Okay, we've talked a lot about the why, the how, the sort of data set, the research, the process. Now I'm curious about the findings. Have you been surprised by any of the outcomes from your research, from running these models, from analyzing dog vocalizations?
Well, the part that I think is super cool is that you can actually tell apart different sounds and associate them with this context, right? So that's a start. And it's still very rough, so we have only a handful of context. Like humans have thousands and thousands of words, right, that would have meaning. In our case, for right now, it's really just a handful of, I wouldn't call them words, like this context that we can tell apart. But that, I think, it's super exciting. And there are other people who've done work in the past on that and have found some. We found that we can do it better with the use of these neural networks. The thing that was really cool is what I just mentioned before, that we can pre-train on human speech and make even faster progress. And then there are the other things that we try, really making analogy with what we do for human speech. For instance, figuring out who is talking. Like, for instance, okay, between you and me, maybe it would be easier because of accent, gender, and stuff. But in general, if you have a number of people speaking, sometimes can be difficult to figure out who is talking. Is it Rada talking, or Mary talking, or Jane talking? So this is authorship identification, and we found we could do that for dogs as well. So we were able to distinguish between 70 dogs, like sort of who's talking.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And that was pretty cool as well. We couldn't really tell the sex of the dog, so that was harder, which was also interesting. For humans, it's much easier. So you can build classifiers that will tell you this is a female voice or a male voice. At least with what we've done so far, we couldn't tell very well this is a female dog or a male dog, which I think it's interesting in itself.
I mean, it speaks to gender being a social construct, maybe, or maybe it's just a per species thing. Who knows?
Who knows? And yeah, I think that's again, I mean, it's interesting.
So these findings are just sort of getting started, enough to kind of get media attention. What's next? What would you guys like to look into next?
Well, in AI and in language in general, I mean, for human language, there is this saying, there is no better data than more data. So I think if we are able to collect more data, probably we'll be able to go for finer granularity in terms of making this classification. We are also thinking of going the other way around, of doing generation, which I think will be interesting in itself, like generate dog barks as a way of making something that's meaningful to the other species.
Wow. So not just us understanding them, but them understanding us.
Yeah, I think so far, actually, they understand us better than we understand them, which is sort of +1 for dogs. But yeah, thinking also of generation, but that requires even more data. So I think there is a lot to do. And then really thinking of the apply side. So what I started with, I'm fascinated by intelligence. I think if we manage to find ways to communicate that, for instance, there are the canine teams, because dogs have these extra senses. So if we could communicate in ways that would allow us to understand more about the abilities they have and we don't, I think that would be super cool. Of course, animal welfare, right? It's hard to tell when they hurt, where they hurt.
Yeah.
So if we could find ways to do that. So there is also, of course, the apply side.
Well, if you're looking for animals to train on, you can have my cat. Please just take him. No charge. He's yours.
I'll reach out.
I'm kidding. I don't think my girlfriend would like that. Rada, I really appreciate your time. Thanks for talking to me about this, and good luck with the rest of the research.
Thank you. Thanks again for having me.
Rada Mihalcea is a professor of electrical engineering and computer science at the University of Michigan, where she's trying to decode, using AI, what your dog's saying. Up next, my friend, comedian Natasha Vinik, and she's got a complaint about guys who play guitar rather than, play with her. We'll also discuss roasts. That is comedy shows where you're roasting someone. How to do them, because I have to do one next week and I need help. The comedian Natasha Vinik up next. She's here. She's comedian. She's Natasha. She's Vinik. She's so many things. And I'm so glad she's joining us while she's in the dumps, down and dirty, dumpy dirts. Natasha, welcome.
I'm in the dumpy dirt dumps.
Great. Love it. I actually did research for this show earlier, but before that, I burnt my tongue because I'm my mother's son. Like I drink, when I was a kid, there'd always just be tea glasses, either with mold or not with mold, because she put milk in it, in the microwave. She would drink half a tea, put it in the microwave, turn the microwave on, and forget about it. And this was every time we would go in to make our kiddie food or whatever, pizzas, bagels, whatever, there was a glass of tea. I do that with my coffee.
I relate to your mom so much, too.
You do this?
I mean, I'm just leaving cups. I'm leaving cups places.
This was specifically a microwave, though.
A microwave thing? I don't microwave. I'm a cold coffee drinker myself.
Gross. You'll just let warm coffee cool down and then drink it?
Yeah, actually, I do. I put it in a dark place. A dark, cold place.
Anyway, I'm always throwing things in the microwave. I had like one sip left. It was cold. I put it in for 30 seconds thinking but when it's a sip, it heats up really fast. I burnt my tongue. Are there ways in which you're your mother's son?
Yeah, I was actually telling my brother about this yesterday. My mom is like really intense about food. We love food in our house. And she's someone who will, like, if there's a meal in front of you, either at a restaurant or something that she cooked, she will tell you how to take the perfect bite. She's like, you have to put this on and you have to put this on and you have to have this in the bite. And I'm that exact same way. I like start pushing people like, no, you have to try this food with this food and see how that tastes. And it's so silly to see it happen, you know?
I am sort of like that when people eat food that I've cooked. I'm very fussy that they eat it the right way. Like I made pasta for my sister the other night. She was visiting and I made this topping for it with like parsley. And maybe she doesn't like parsley or maybe she didn't look at the look of the parsley. And she's like, oh no, not so much. And then when she turned her head, I dumped parsley onto her pasta. Because I'm like, this is the way it should be eaten.
You got to have it right.
Is it because your mother makes the food or is it just because she's like that with everything?
I mean, the making the food is big, but honestly, if at a restaurant she's figured out what she says is the perfect combination of things to try, she's going to make you try it. And I think it's because we like love food and she wants you to experience the same enjoyment she has, you know?
But by trying to get people to experience the, quote, same enjoyment, you're just annoying them and making them enjoy it less. So I love that it accomplishes the opposite. There are many things in human nature where we want something and we get the opposite. Like when we want people to like us, we might come off as desperate. And when you come off as desperate, nobody likes you.
No one likes you, it turns out.
Natasha, I got big things for you today.
Oh, what do we got? I'm so excited.
Well, while doing the research for this show, my fact checkers and background research team, which just consists of me looking at your social media for about 30 seconds, found a great clip of you doing stand-up that I would like to play, and we can talk about it.
All right, I'm in.
It's coming. Don't worry. It's all coming.
I believe you.
It's all coming.
One of my other rules is if I bring a man over to my house, I have to hide my guitar. I've just never seen a straight man walk into a room, look at a guitar, and leave it alone. I just haven't seen it. Like if I make the mistake of leaving my guitar out, I could be turning around, taking off my shirt, and within seconds I'll hear bum 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 bum. And I'm like, buddy, if you do cool enough finger work, I can make some pretty sick noises too, you know? Mostly it's bum, 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 bum. That's the sound I make when I come. I'm kidding, you guys. I don't come. I'm on Lexapro.
It's a good walk-off joke at the end of the bit there. Fantastic.
Yeah, it's fun because earlier in the set, so I didn't know how to work as a clip, because earlier in the set I actually talk about my therapist trying to get me on Lexapro and me refusing to be on it. So I think it's even more fun callback for the audience at the end.
A confusing callback, you mean?
No, more fun one.
Oh, I thought you said, but you're not on it.
Well, it's like that I keep arguing with him against being on it. I guess you don't know ultimately if I agree or not to be on it, but then it's pretty clear by the end, like, oh, she's on it.
It's pretty clear from spending 5 minutes with you. Anyway.
It's clear that she should be on it.
I love this because not quite sex, although maybe it's related. I have this friend that when we were growing up, he fancied himself, I don't know, Chris Martin from Coldplay. Like he would sing with this raspy voice. It's like attitude. And we would have these parties. Like, and we had a small grade in my last year of high school. And so we all kind of hung out in that year between high school and university. And anytime there was a guitar around, he would pick it up. He'd be like playing guitar all the time. He'd bring his guitar to parties. And
I hate it.
One time my ex-wife was talking about not liking guys who played guitar too much. And my friend says, well, I play guitars at parties a lot. And my ex-wife just looks at him and says, you really do seem like a guy who would play a guitar at a party. And it cut him down like I've never seen before.
It's the most hurtful thing you can say.
It's a real archetype because these people, they just want attention. They just want to be loved. They just want everyone to think they're a great musician.
Yes.
It's like
and this. It works the opposite.
Exactly. It's like your mom and the food.
It is just like my mom and the food. It's so funny because I used to have kind of a joke about this, about how like everyone hates guitar guy at a party, but you know who we all love? We all love piano guy.
Oh.
Like we love someone hopping on the piano. And I think it's because there's no risk of the piano guy following you around the party playing Wonderwall on the piano. You know what I mean? But it is a clear and present danger with a guy with a guitar.
There are annoying piano songs, like the Coldplay. I don't know why Coldplay came up earlier, but what's that? I don't even. You know that one?
No.
Well, it's annoying. But there are less annoying piano songs than annoying guitar songs.
Yeah, I think it could even be the same songs, but something about the piano is just functionally less annoying.
It's a slightly harder, it's a tougher beginner's instrument, I think. So the barrier to entry is higher. So the person's probably less likely to be annoying about it because there's nothing worse than a beginner who thinks they're good at something. That's the worst kind of person.
And I mean, I think that's why people hate comedians. There's such a low barrier to entry. The skill can be all over the place, you know?
I used to be a stand-up comedian. They're proof and point right there.
Yeah, but not everyone can do radio.
Yeah, but I can do it badly. Okay. The other thing I want to talk to you about, roasts. Yes. I've been asked to give a roast. I used to be good at them when I was doing stand-up a lot, but I haven't done one in a long time. Do you like doing roasts?
I'm not good at being mean in that way.
Oh.
I feel like a lot of roasts are sometimes so visual, and that's just like not what I'm good at, you know, where I'm like, you're
ugly.
You're short and stupid, you know? But my roommate, Ashley, she started stand-up and she like blew up in roasts. She's really good at roasting.
Good.
Which is funny because she's a very sweet person too. I feel like one-on-one I can roast. I just always worry about being too mean on stage, you know?
I mean, this is for like someone I know. This is a family member for a party. Like, this is not. I'm not on like, you know, New York's top roast. This is like everyone's rooting for me, and at the end, I can say all jokes aside and say something ridiculous and meaningful that isn't that meaningful, and everyone's like, "Wow."
Get so mean, then. Get so mean.
I'm thinking about that. Any tips?
I think if you like in that kind of roast, it's really nice to go hard, but then once in a while, give a few little jabs at yourself on the way. You know?
Oh yeah.
In case people who don't know you that well are like feeling for him too much, you know?
Oh yeah. And I mean that I'm good at. I am very good at putting myself down. I mean, that's one of my best. If I'm good at anything, if I know I'm not a beginner at something and I won't be annoying, although it is annoying, it's insulting myself. I mean, isn't that just Judaism though? I don't know.
I think so. That's my experience for sure.
It's the 11th commandment or something. What are these 10 commandments? 6 or 7 of them make no sense.
Oh man, I'd say 10 of them make no sense. Well, like stuff about neighbors' wives. Leave your neighbors' wives.
Like okay, don't murder, don't steal. Like okay, sure. you got me. Like yes, But then it's like no gods before me. What about after you? I mean, what's going on? The Sabbath? Who cares about the Sabbath?
Me neither.
I'm not honoring my mother and father unless they deserve it. If they're real jerks, they're not getting. What if your father's a mass murderer? Don't honor that guy.
Yeah, I agree. Don't honor him. That's so funny. I just got a call from my father recently. We don't really ever talk.
You've described him as a garbage person, although that's an insult to garbage collectors everywhere.
He called me up. So I went through a breakup, and I guess my grandmother told my father, and he called me up, and it's the first call I've gotten from him in a number of years. And he's like, "Hey, heard you broke up with this guy." I'm like, "Yeah, blah, blah, blah." Or he broke up with me. I'm sad, blah, blah, blah. And I found out that I might have Lyme disease also a few days before the breakup.
Oh.
And my dad, again, who hasn't called me in years, goes, "Oh, is Lyme disease the one where you order a margarita, but they never give you a lime?"
Oh, no.
And I'm like, yeah, it's that chronic illness where nobody how many margaritas you order.
I feel like the threshold to make fun of you when you get a really bad illness, you need to be really close with someone.
You need to be like in their lives in some way.
Yeah. Someone who works with me professionally has like a terminal illness. And I said to him, it could have been worse. You could have not gotten this illness. And there was like a long pause and I was like, oh no, did I cross the line? And then he burst into laughter and I'm like, yes.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah, it's those moments where it's just like a long pause.
It's so satisfying when you get it right, though.
I was once in the back of a Uber, and there was a really long train blocking where we were going. And so we were waiting, and the driver says to me and my friend, like, yo, how fast do you think this thing goes? And I said, probably top speed of 10 miles an hour. And then he goes, I think it goes a lot faster than that. And I said, no, it doesn't, bro. Read a book. And there was a long pause, and my friend is like, David, what are you doing? And then the driver bursts out into laughter. After, when we're downtown in the city that we're in later, he rolls down the window and starts screaming out of the window at people, read a book, read a book. He's like, it's his new favorite insult. He loves it. And it could have been like, get the hell out of my car, you jerk.
I love read a book. Read a book's great.
It's one of the great insults. Natasha Vinik is here. When we come back, we'll talk breakups if you want.
Yeah, all right.
Great. Love a good breakup. I mean, I don't, but I do for the purposes of this show.
For sure.
We'll be back. Natasha Vinik, comedian. Check her out at www.natashathecomedianvinik.net. No, it's just natashavinik.com, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. But I'm going to get that one now.
You better, yeah. Domain name hoarding is a problem because it's so expensive. It's like cheap to just buy it because it's like $15. But then 10 years later, it's been, you never get rid of them, right?
No, you don't. I don't know how they trick you that way, but they do it good.
They do. I did recently get rid of a few. Do you have many, or is it just the one?
I think it's just the one. I think I have one for like the original 30 Dates in 30 Days I did.
Yeah, that was a podcast.
And there was one where I was considering changing my last name to my mother's maiden name for either comedy or work, one of those. And so I think I might have bought that one at some point.
May I ask what that is, or is that private?
Apaza, Apaza.
Natasha Apaza. I like it.
It's like it's balanced. It's the 3 syllables.
You could even go by Natasha Apaza Vinik.
Oh, that's a lot of names, isn't it?
NAV. There's no acronym NAV. Not important. Breakups. You were dating what I thought was, if you take me, like a Canadian Jew who grew up in the neighborhood in Toronto I grew up in, and you look in the mirror and you add supportive parents, the person looking back at you is your ex-boyfriend. I was excited for you.
I know. I was excited for me too. Isn't that crazy?
What happened?
What a good question. On Monday, he came back from a work trip. We had a FaceTime. I could tell, like, he was asking me about some of my stuff, and I was kind of bummed out because 2 days before I found out I have Lyme disease, then that whole fun thing with Trump happened. And so Sunday I was just sort of catatonic, where I'm just like checking out. So I'm still like struggling to get a job. And so my brain is in a bad place and I have depression normally. So we talked on Monday, and he asked something on one of my videos. I think I was kind of bummed out about it. And then he seemed tired. So he's like, I gotta go. I'm like, is everything okay? He's like, yeah, I'm just tired from this work trip. And I'm like, okay. But then like his vibe seemed a little off. And I was like, is there anything you want to tell me? And then that's when he starts breaking up with me, which is, I shouldn't be the one to have to pull out a breakup out of somebody.
No.
That's crazy to just start talking. And then at some point, I'm like, is this a breakup conversation? And he's like, yeah. Essentially, the TLDR is he's breaking up with me because I'm too sad and my life is too unstable.
Your life's not that unstable, dude. You're not like on the tracks or like doing drugs or waking up in a pile of your own piss.
And like, thank you so much. And if I am sad, it's so outside circumstantial where like, if you just give time for these things to pass, like I'm going to be less sad, like who wouldn't be sad after a new diagnosis?
Yeah. Lyme disease sucks. I don't know if I fully said, I'm sorry to hear that. I do have a friend recently diagnosed with it. Maybe I should put you in touch with her. You guys can just chat.
I would love that because I do really want to chat with some people so I can understand more.
I will do that after this show.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to hear about that. That's a tricky one.
It is.
Goddamn ticks. Who likes them? Nobody.
I don't get it because I'm not out there in the wild. I'm not like, hiking around. Like I walk through Golden Gate Park and that's it. You know what I mean? Very strange.
Yeah. That's in San Francisco. I feel like, you're a workout person, but at least you've got risks out there. So I don't have to feel so bad for not going out there. But now the ticks are coming in the city. They live on pets. They're everywhere.
It doesn't make sense. Like a Lyme disease doctor was like, only 5% of ticks in San Francisco carry Lyme. Like it is so unlike. Anyway, yes.
Is it a sure thing, or is it you're still waiting for their results?
Well, what's so cool about Lyme disease is that if you test for it and it tests negative, that means nothing because it's like so many false negatives. But if you test positive, then it means something. So I tested negative, which is meaningless. But as soon as I saw the rash, which for any listeners, if you ever see a bite rash that looks like a bullseye.
Oh, you saw it?
Yes. I saw a red dot in the middle and a big bullseye on the outside. And within the next morning, I was taking the antibiotics for it.
Oh, so you may well clear this.
It's very possible.
Oh, good news. Good news.
It's
Great
really
news.
good news, but just scary. You know what I mean?
It could have been worse, though. You could have not gotten Lyme disease. That joke works best when someone dies and you say to their family, it could have been worse. They could have survived.
I love that.
Yeah. It's a real sad joke because you can never say it to someone when they die. You can't say it could have been worse. You could have lived because they're already dead.
Nah. Yeah, they're done.
Sort of a tragic joke in that way. In its best form, it's untellable.
Yes.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that. I'm glad you're on the antibiotics, but those can be rough on your system, the stomach, you know, so and it may not work, but let's hope it does.
Fingies crossed, you know?
Fingies. Get the off my show. Jesus.
You love me.
I am fond of you. I love you as a friend. The other day I was like talking to a friend who's a comedian who comes on this show whose name starts with N-A. Weird, huh? Natalie?
Strange.
She told me I was in her like upper rung of besties, and I added her to my favorites as a result on my phone. I'm not saying that we're there, but I feel like you and I are pretty good. Can I say you're a good friend?
Yeah, I think we can say we're good friends. We know enough about each other where I think we're allowed to say good friends.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
You've got a good friend in me.
Like you're someone I would visit if I'm in your city. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's a pretty good friend.
It's not because you don't know anyone.
Oh, I have plenty of other friends.
Oh, you do? Oh, well, now I feel good. I wouldn't have visit you, which is the past participle of visited, maybe. So he dumps you because you're too much of a Debbie Downer for him.
That and my life is too unstable, which means I don't have a job, you know?
Oh, come on.
Yeah, I'm like, life's going to get hard.
Is he paying your rent? Like, is he?
No.
Then what's the?
No. It's crazy because life can change so much. Like whenever he finds his wife and has kids, God forbid she has postpartum depression, you know, like,
yeah,
God forbid anyone loses a job. Like life only gets harder when you have kids. It's so crazy if you can't deal with whatever this is, you know?
We're so short-sighted men. Like if something hurts us, it's like we're big babies. We got to fix it. We got to do something about it or we got to get out. We can't just bear with it.
Absolutely. You know, or just like talk through it. And I think that's what really pissed me off about telling me like my sadness is too much for him is like, you only tell somebody that if you're trying to work on it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like if you want to be together, then you say, hey, I know you're going through a lot right now, but it's kind of like, it's weighing heavy on me. Like, can we take breaks? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if you're breaking up with someone, you don't tell them their depression is too much and too sad because you're not working on it. So you're just hurting the other person.
He should have been kind and just told you he cheated on you and that it's not going to work out.
Or just say like, the truth is I want to have babies in 2 years. I don't see it happening with you. And I'm so sorry, you know, like that's all you have to say.
Do you want kids?
I have like specific rules for myself in which I would have kids. And I loved him so much. And I thought he'd be such a good father that I was like actually open to having kids with him, you know?
Oh,
I know.
You're making me feel sad.
I'm so sorry. I don't mean to.
No, it's okay. But your answer was not an emphatic yes, which I feel like it should be.
Well, you say that, but like, even him who wants kids so bad, I'm like, would you do it on your own? He goes, no. And I'm like, seems like you don't want kids that bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I got a friend who really wanted kids. She adopted one, you know, she's single.
And that's what people do. That's what women do because they understand like the whole picture. I think a lot of dudes just like think it's so easy because they saw their dads doing what, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's funny you say that if this is how you're dealing with kind of this minor stuff now, how are you going to deal with postpartum depression? Dodged a bullet. Unless you get back together with him, in which case I love you and support you, and I'll be his number one fan again. People always worry. They're like, I don't want to talk my ex in case we get back together. I'm a great person to do that with because I will like your ex again if you get back together with an ex. I'm
a team player. I'm on team my friends. So if my friend's back together, then I'm like, yes, I love this guy. And if not, I'm like, we hate this guy. Mm-hmm. But we're not. It was too hurtful. What he did was so hurtful. You know what I mean?
I'm sure he's got better things to do than listen to you on some random podcast. But if he is listening,
he never used to, but yeah.
If he is listening, I hope he is. He claimed my brother knew who he was. I asked my brother about him. My brother said, I don't know who that is. And then your boyfriend's like, well, I went to summer camp with him when we were kids. So I said that to my brother.
Mm-hmm.
And then I said to you and him, I said, my brother, he remembers you. And I was only saying it to be nice. My brother, even when I gave him the context, did not remember him. So that's all I got on him.
Got him.
We got him. We got him good.
I've been working on my list. That's how I process breakups. I do the list of everything bad about the person.
You should email him the list.
I should. Okay, so after this FaceTime where he broke up with me, he called me back like a minute later and he's like, hey, can I give you some examples of the things I meant? Like the things that...
What?
And I'm like, no, I don't need examples. But then some minutes after that, he sends me a long email, which is like, I don't want this. I don't want...
You just said no.
I just said I'm done. But some guys, I think, especially if they run anxious, feel like they have to explain themselves. And people do, like guys especially, think want to be the good guy. So thinks if he explains himself enough, it'll make it all make sense. And it's like, no, the way you did this was so hurtful in the first place. I don't need to hear more reasons why we're not a good fit. I just need to recover,
But you read it anime because you have a penchant for self-abuse, yeah?
Of course I read it. Absolutely. I'm so mean to myself. But yeah, now I'm on, I'm leaving alone. I have my list I'm developing. I'm asking for friends. What's so nice about being a comedian is you have comedy friends. And so when you ask for say something bad about my ex, they will roast him,
Yeah,
And it's good. I got some good roasts.
Okay, just let him know my brother doesn't know who he is, please.
Okay. I mean, I don't know if I'm going to talk to him, but if I do, that'll be the first thing I say.
No, you're going to call him and say, I prepared a list of all the things that I think made dating you not worth it. Do you want me to give you that list? And he's going to say, no, why are you even calling me? He'll hang up on you and then email him the list. Boom.
Top of the list. David Cooper's brother doesn't know who the you are.
I feel like I know him, even though I don't know him. And if that were me, that would really cut me.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
The only thing more hurtful than that is you seem like a guy who brings out a guitar at parties.
My brother thought maybe you were the guy who played a guitar at a party. It's getting too complicated. Natasha, it is a pleasure to interview you. Keep your head up.
Thank you.
I think only good things for you are going to happen.
Fingers crossed.
Oh, God. I mean, some bad things will happen too, but you get what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I get it.
Natasha Vinik is a comedian out of San Francisco. Check her out at natashavinik.com. That's Vinik. We talked about it yesterday. We're doing it today. Great days in internet history. Foreign correspondent Tony 5 is about to join me, and we're going to go over those memes, those viral moments, those massively shared videos that happened throughout internet history. It is time for our foreign correspondent, Tony 5, to do what, Tony?
David, this is epic. We were talking about viral moments and how ridiculous it's become, because most people before would talk about these epic moments in their life, the Apollo moon landing, JFK getting blown. All these wonderful things in the world. But now it's all about viral moments, right? It's ridiculous. So I think, we were going to discuss, we had some homework, David being the teacher's pet. I got loads. No, I've got loads. I've got 3. And I want to start with my one, which, again, I completely forgot about it until I researched it.
I feel like you haven't given this segment the proper title. The title is Great Days in Internet History. Those days where something so stupid happened or so interesting happened that everyone was talking about it, sharing it, watching it, etc. Boom, I defined it. Okay, that's what we're doing. Great Days in Internet History. You want to go first.
This was an archetypal moment for me. This was something that both metaphysically, academically, seismically changed my approach for everything. It went around the world. It gave people a lot of things to think about. My mum commented on it. I think my local priest mentioned it in a sermon. And of course, everybody knows it was Kim Kardashian's butt.
That's the moment, her butt?
Yeah. So the moment was that she took a photo of her butt and a champagne bottle flying out and over her head. I don't know, have you seen it? Well, you must have seen it.
No.
Are you joking? It was like number 2 or number 3. If you just type in Kim Kardashian breaking the internet, it was this picture that went round the world. It was viral. It was the most amazing picture. You must have seen it, right?
I see it. Yeah, I saw that. I don't know. I guess I didn't register it because at the time I wasn't a butt man, but now I am. Okay,
so now it's your viral moment and you can get a virus from it. But apparently this thing went around the world. It was huge. It was on everybody's phone. It was crazy. And it's just a weird picture of a woman who's got a big fat ass and a champagne bottle going over, and it's just because it's her. And even now, to this day, I can't work out why they're famous, David. I don't get it. I know there was a show, Keeping Up with the Kardashians. I guess that might be it. Her father was the prosecutor for O.J. Simpson, and her dad is now her mum, who's now they're a lovely person. Caitlyn Jenner, not Kris Jenner. I think they're amazing. I think they're a great Olympian, and I think they're a great tennis player. Whatever they do now, good luck to her and all that sales in her.
Well, she's kind of like a Republican, which is really weird because Republicans are not known for their trans rights and supportiveness.
Okay.
So it's kind of, what do they call it? Leopards eating my face? Or like, what happened when those two magicians, they kept a white leopard around?
Oh my God, that's Siegfried and Roy. The white tiger, basically.
I mean, it's a tragedy that the guy died or whatever, but like, you don't keep a tiger around as a pet.
No.
And then be shocked when it mauls you.
Absolutely. But they considered it like to be like your cat. Oh, we could put our head in the tiger and it's all going to be fun. And a tiger just thought one day, I'm going to eat you, you blonde lunatic.
Anyway, that was the moment.
That's my first moment, yeah, that I remember vividly. And there's two more that I remember vividly. One was when I was at college. Do you want me to go through, or is it your go now?
Yeah, why don't we do your three? Because I've got a million and your three suck. So I think we should start this segment by doing the garbage content.
Tit face.
Don't just say hawk to a girl.
No. The other one, which got sent around, and it was kind of my first sort of really looking at YouTube as something to do, was the evolution of dance. Do you remember that? Where some nerdy white guy goes on stage and he body pops and he does and he's a really good dancer and he goes through all of these dances. I remember thinking, well, that's lame, but I'm watching it on a computer, so this is quite amazing. So that was my second moment, which I thought was, that was kind of cool. That was weird.
That was the first, I think, viral YouTube video. I think that was the original.
Was it?
Viral YouTube video, The Evolution of Dance.
I thought it was see, I'm torn between either that one being the first or the cat playing the piano. Do you remember that?
That's a very talented cat. That was around the time of Daft Hands, where it was these two like teenage girls. You couldn't see their face. You could just see their torsos in like a sports bra. And then they started doing the Daft Punk song like Better, Faster, Stronger.
Okay. I don't remember that. That must be a very US-y thing. No, I don't know it at all.
Wow. Well, that was another moment around the evolution of dance time.
But again, now that I'm talking about it, they're flooding back to me. Do you remember something called the annoying orange?
No.
Again, that's something that I vividly remember. An orange with a superimposed mouth on it. It was going, it was just an annoying, basically like you, but an orange.
Instead of a young Jewish man, actually, I'm not young. I'm not young anymore.
Easy. I mean, you dropped that in like it was just nothing. Young Jewish man.
I used to be young. We all used to be young. I'm almost 40, Jesus. Young. I mean, I guess I'm young compared to my grandfather, who's
dead, I thought you were going to say me.
Well, no.
I'm not your grandfather.
You're not?
Is that the line that he says in Star Wars?
Luke, I'm not your grandfather? No, that's
I knew it was something like that. I'm a big fan of Star Trek.
I wonder if these viral internet moments, like it's a Venn diagram, right? Like there's overlap between North America and the UK, but it's not completely comparable.
And other countries, there are other countries apart from the UK and the US. But yes, you're right. You must be, because there's some things that I think...
Vatican City, is that a country?
No.
Oh.
But the Pope is a head of state.
Liechtenstein.
Correct.
Okay.
Very good. Bless you.
See, I know countries. I'm not trying to brag.
Oh, you do know countries, David. You are an absolute legend when it comes to countries. I've heard about you and countries.
If you know countries, then you're never mind.
Yeah. A country file. So there must be things that overlap that have literally crossed the pond and become so amazing. The Hucks are global, 100% global. Everybody knows, everybody gets it.
She's the reason we're doing this. So this is the most important thing she's ever inspired. David and Tony going over great moments in internet history. I'm sure she's happy that we're doing this. What is your third one? Because I have about 1 million.
Right, so those two, I mean, the one that I remember so vividly was, again, it's not it's more a compilation of people just falling over. which is again do you have you had Candid Camera, right?
Yeah. They call them fail army, fail blog, fail videos, like that kind of thing.
Yeah, so like the Uber, but then it was the first ones where they would superimpose the gangster glasses on them. I don't know if the digital Minecrafty 8-bit gangster glasses on these guys, and they'd do something.
Yeah, and then they would play the beginning of "Damn It Feels Good to Be a Gangsta" by what is it, the Ghetto Boys?
What? So yes, there's just I didn't know the song, but well done for knowing that song. Exactly, they'd play a little bit of a hip hop or rap song, and it was hilarious. And I watch all of them. I'd sit at night and watch all of them on my old Sony Ericsson P900 smartphone.
I mean, I'm the one who called that it was Ghetto Boys. Damn, it feels good to be a gangsta. And between the two of us, I'm the only white one. So you should be ashamed of yourself.
I'm going to go and I was going to say floss myself, but it's not floss. It's flog. Floss myself would mean good oral hygiene, whereas flog would mean self-flagellation.
Sure.
God, I'm really good with words today, David. I'm full of words today.
All right. Well, anyway, that song, I always play that song after I file my taxes. I don't know why.
My God, I thought you were going to say you play that song every time you orgasm, which would be incredible. And I would call Miranda and just ask her for sure.
No, that is not what I play every time that happens. When I click file on my taxes, doing taxes is such a responsible, nerdy, adult thing. I just feel like it's important to play a song that sort of counters that. And so I play "Damn It Feels Good to Be a Gangsta," which is one of my favorite songs. It's like a good track. It holds up by today's standards.
Okay, Damn It Feels Good. I'm going to look at it and I'm going to listen to it on Spotify later on. Okay, let's start with your million.
Great days in internet history.
Correct.
I mean, let's start simple. Charlie bit me.
Charlie bit my finger. True. I've actually seen him all grown up now. He was on a show in the UK and it is quite fascinating because now, weirdly enough, he is a dentist.
Is he?
No, of course not, David, you dipshit. Carry on. Today's good to be a gangster.
I mean, I don't know when it started, but it seemed like it went from nowhere to everywhere. Rickrolling. That's the attempt at sending people links, being like, hey, I found this new research paper that cites this weird thing that you don't believe. Click it. And then it's Rick James playing... It's Rick Astley. What do you mean Rick James?
Yeah, it's Rick Astley. Never gonna give you up, but never gonna say. And he's an English singer, and it launched, David, this viral thing launched this guy's career. He's been in the Albert Hall. He was at Glastonbury. This guy literally rejuvenated this guy from his deathbed, and now he's famous. And I'll tell you an anecdote. So my crazy neighbour across the road, Julie, she's a super fan and got his tattoo, has his signature tattooed on her thigh.
What?
Yeah, psychopath.
That's wild. I thought you would send people a clip of Rick James doing Super Freak, like super freak, she's super freaky. I got this whole thing wrong.
No, it was Rick Astley. We're never going to give...
I know that. I just said Rick James by accident.
Oh, right. Okay. So it's just stupidity. I just wanted to make sure that you were aware of how ridiculous it sounded. But carry on.
All right. We've done our warm-up. I've got actual great days in internet history coming up. We're here with Tony 5, foreign correspondent, doing our version of internet history. We are back with foreign correspondent in London, England, Tony 5, going over the great days in internet history. Things like Huck to a girl, but of the past times. Tony, welcome back.
Yeah, David, I've had a chance to think about your previous submission, which was the Rick rolling. I would say that was more of a forward than a viral day that broke the internet. So I've adjudicated it, and I say fail. Sorry, that's out.
I was just getting warmed up. Now I got some really good ones.
Okay, hit me.
Katy Perry singing California Girls at the Super Bowl, having those cartoony shark costumes. The left shark is what it has been.
Shark.
Yeah.
It had a name, didn't it? The shark, and he didn't know what was going. Correct. That very good. That went around the world.
I am convinced that was on purpose because it was so genius, and people were remixing videos of world leaders with any gaffe that any politician did, any embarrassing video. People would remix it and paint on this left shark that obviously did not know the dance in the most hilarious way. It was like looking at the other sharks, trying to figure it out. I'm like, how did you get on a Super Bowl stage? This is the most watched TV event maybe on the planet, certainly,
right?
Certainly in North America, and you didn't even rehearse your dance. Like, it had to have been staged, but I don't even care if it was staged because it was so funny.
So this is my thought about viral moments, right? Had we known Mr. I'm in the left, well, nobody knows who he is. It could be me or you. So this guy is probably one of the most famous people in the world, but nobody knows the name of this left shark guy.
It's like the Guy Fawkes mask in V for Vendetta. Like,
yes.
The left shark is everybody and nobody. The left shark
Correct.
is all of us.
And none of us.
It's like Daft Punk. Like, we don't know who these guys are, even though we do know who they are. But, like, if I showed you a picture of one of the artists from Daft Punk, you'd be like, that's not him. It's just some weird, nerdy-looking French music guy. Like, it's a nobody.
Yes, but nobody knows because he wears those helmets, right?
Exactly. So Daft Punk, even though we know who they are, is kind of nobody and everybody. And so, too, we're all left shark, Tony. We all have the capacity to be left shark in our worst moments.
Oh, well, if you're vegan, though, you wouldn't want to be associated to a shark, would you?
Well, they're not.
Left carrot.
They're not killing it and eating it. All right. Famous moments.
Okay, I'll give you that.
Great moments in internet history. Could be a meme, could be a video, could be something viral. The New York pizza rat. Remember that rat in the New York subway who grabbed like a full slice of pizza and started walking it up the steps, and someone just took a video of it? The pizza was 15 times bigger than the rat. It was epic.
Again, no, never seen that.
What?
That must be an over the pond meme, because I've got no memory of it. I've never seen it. No, that must be only something to do with America.
This one I'm particularly fond of because it was during the time of my first real job out of university, my first real like computer science-y job where I was programming and engineering and writing software. Rebecca Black's Friday drops and the internet breaks. Do you remember that song, Friday?
The woman that sings, she's in a car or something, Friday.
She's a rich teenager in Los Angeles with rich parents, and they paid for her to have a well-shot music video and a lot of auto-tune, but they still couldn't make up for her lack of talent. And so the internet, the video was like a parody of a bad music video. It was trying way too hard, and yet it was terrible. It was really ridiculous, and yet it was very like safe for work because it was like preteens and teenagers. Like there was nothing edgy about it.
Right.
And it just was shared around, and the song was really, really, really terrible. She just lists the days of the week in the song, and she finally gets to Friday, and she's like, I like Friday. It's awful.
Oh, I like Friday too. I think she's a genius. But did that go into the charts? I seem to remember something like that. Did that actually chart?
That I don't know.
It might have been in the Billboard. Okay, that's decent. Again, probably way more popular in the US than it was in the UK. Not really huge over here.
The ice bucket challenge. People thought if they just put ice water over their head, they would somehow cure ALS. Like,
yes.
What?
yes. And it's celebrities got involved, but did they donate money or did they literally just put buckets of ice on there? I never heard anybody donating any money.
I mean, I'm sure celebrities did, but I think a lot of people just like posted videos to their Facebook, to their YouTube, and no, they didn't donate money. They didn't raise money. They were just like, ice on my head. Ah!
If anything, they probably wasted a hell of a lot of water.
Right? I mean, I live in the Northeast in the United States. We got the Great Lakes. We're doing fine. But there's parts of the world where water, they really need it. And they were dumping ice on their head. Fantastic.
Well played. Well used. Okay. So, very good. Next.
Chef Nusret Gossiers.
Wait. Are you talking Salt Bay?
Yes! I was trying to just say.
Well done. Now, that's gone round the world. That's true. Salt Bay, agreed.
I was trying to say his name to try to like build the suspense, but you immediately knew. I think he's opened up a chain of restaurants now called Salt Bay, or maybe he renamed his chain because he's just embraced it. But he was, for those who don't know, this handsome guy who just would salt steak in a very, I don't know, erotic way.
No, flamboyant, not erotic, flamboyant. He would basically bend his arm, bend his wrist and drop it. But then he took it to extreme. He's got a restaurant in Knightsbridge, probably one of the most expensive areas in London, and it's called Nusrat. And he sells $1,000 steaks with gold leaf, and it used to be always in the paper. I think now the fame has died down and people are not going. But at one stage, he had really capitalized on it. I mean, I don't know whether it's in New York, but it's definitely in London.
Yeah, no. He's got a restaurant in New York.
Wow.
I disagree. I think it was erotic and flamboyant. Maybe you're just not aroused by men, Tony. But I myself, I'm not bisexual, but I can pick up on those vibes and recognize them for what they are, you know? That's a sexy. I mean, a man salting meat. That's very sexual, Tony.
The way you said it sounds sexual, but I don't think it is sexual.
And yeah, he like would bounce the salt off his arm, which is like kind of gross, right? Because he's washing his arm. I don't know.
Is he washing his arm hair? I don't know, David. But yes, I agree.
I love that he was called Salt Bae. Bae, of course,
Salt
being
Bae.
like slang for boyfriend or guy that I like. And so women were just like, yeah, this is my boyfriend who's involved with salt.
Salt and steak. I mean, that was all his attractive nature was. Salt, steak. That's it.
I've got a few political ones involving Trump, Republicans, even one involving Obama, but we'll get to those in a moment. Kanye West, the notorious anti-Semite, and I mean, he is a talented rapper, but he's unwell. He's not a well person.
No, and that's why I'm very weary and very kind of reticent about mocking him, only because I can see he's a very, very deeply unwell person who probably goes off medication quite a lot. And people mock him, and I think he's a very artistic guy. I think some of his early music and stuff is brilliant, and the trainers and stuff. But he must not have the right support network who say, Kanye, let's not be anti-Semitic today.
Yeah, I mean, when you have so much money, you can just fire people. You know, you can hire people around you and then get rid of the ones who aren't sycophants, who suck up to you.
Yeah.
I think he's deeply unwell. I mean, I don't really think he's an anti-Semite. I just think he's unwell.
No.
You know?
I just think he has stuff to say and he doesn't know how to say it. And then he did the whole thing with Trump. Do you remember where he wore the Make America Great Again? But whether he really believes that Trump is the next savior, I don't know. Yeah. I just think he's gone from this position where he was kind of on top, right? He was a brilliant rapper. He was married to Kardashian and his marriage broke up, obviously. And then now I still think he's ill. He hangs around this woman. I don't know whether it's his wife. Her name's Bianca Censori.
Yeah, I think it used to be his assistant or his wife's assistant or something.
I think she's a model, but she wears nothing. She walks around everywhere wearing next to nothing, and he calls her his muse. And she's obviously loving life because she's getting the money and stuff. But yeah.
Okay. All that aside, let's rewind 15 years ago to 2009 when Taylor Swift wins an MTV Video Music Award. Kanye West is expecting Beyonce to win because, she's Beyonce and Taylor Swift is just young at the time. Taylor Swift wins, not Beyonce. Taylor Swift goes to the stage to collect her award and give a little speech. Kanye West goes up there and he says one of the funniest things of all time. He interrupts her moment and says, I'm going to let you finish, okay? But Beyonce had one of the best videos of all time. He lets Taylor finish and she's totally stupefied, baffled. She's like a teenager at the time. Or maybe early 20s. It's not so much what happened, and it's not so much that Kanye West is unwell. It's that I'ma let you finish just memed around the internet. This idea that I'm going to interrupt you and tell you that you're wrong and overwhelm you, but then you can finish. That became sort of a meme, and I loved it.
That was phenomenal. And ongoing for that, again, really difficult because you felt for the girl. She was so young. She'd won this amazing award and he stole her moment, essentially jumped up on the stage, stole her moment. Again, going back from that, now that it's just popped into my head, the whole Will Smith, Chris Rock, Oscar moment, that went round the world within hours. Him smacking, people didn't know whether it was real or not. Insane.
That moment really slapped. We're here with Tony 5 going over great moments in internet history, whether it was a viral video, a meme, or whatnot. When we come back, things will get political. We'll go into political gaffes that were hilarious, baffling, stupefying. We are here with two stupefying people, Tony 5, David Cooper. Stay with me. Great days in internet history. That is what we are covering here with foreign correspondent from England, Tony 5. Tony, welcome back, my friend.
David, again, one of the things, as you talk to me, they all kind of come flooding back in. When Joe Biden introduced Rishi Sunak as Rashid Sunak, and he was just trying to introduce him, phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. I remember that vividly.
I promised political ones right now, but there's one that I have to do, and it was Fire Festival. Remember that festival where rich people... Oh my God,
yes.
It was mostly Americans. They were promised this luxury festival in the Caribbean somewhere, and when they got there, it was emergency shelter and not enough water, and the locals were just F you, because they weren't getting paid by the organizer. It was, it was wild. And I just thought it's an honorable mention. But let's get...
Another honorable mention, just that's gone past, was that Winter Wonderland thing in Scotland that happened just this year. Do you remember that?
No.
And now they're turning it into a film? Are you serious? You didn't see the elves and, like, all these children had gone to a Winter Wonderland, and it was basically cardboard cutouts, some cotton wool for snow, and I think it was like a dog with antlers or something, rather than... it was horrific, and there's a viral meme of the woman who's trying to be an elf or something, who looks absolutely horrifically bored. Again, that was a meme that went around the world, went around the UK immediately, so much so that it became a film. It's going to become a film.
I'm looking forward to seeing that film. Let's get into the political gaffes, starting easy and getting more hilarious. The Cove Feffy tweet by Donald Trump in 2017, perhaps the only redeeming thing he's ever done. He tweeted Covey Effie instead of coffee. And the internet kind of embraced it. I still say I'm going for Kofifi. And then Trump started making jokes about how do you pronounce this. It was like unclear how you pronounced it. Trump leaned into that. It was just a fun moment back when politics were awful, but not as awful as they are now.
Yeah, no, good one. I'm not a fan of Kofifi, but, I could be.
Going back to 2012, the election between Mitt Romney and Obama.
Yep.
During the presidential debate, Republicans are often lauded for being like white Christian men, right?
Yes.
And so I forget the exact line of questioning, but the Democrats were basically being like, we have more representation, we have more women, blah, 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 blah. And presidential candidate Mitt Romney is like, look, I'm going to hire lots of women in my administration. I have binders full of women that my staff are giving me to sort of list candidates. And then I think a lot of American women were just like, what the f***? Why is he saying binders full of women? Is that how you quantify women in binders?
Is that a group name for women, binders?
Yeah, like a school of fish, a binder of women.
Nice.
And then so like on SNL, that joke just went really viral. And they were like, we're feminists. We got binders full of women, stuff like that.
Nice. See, again, didn't come over the bond. Never seen it, never heard of it.
Okay, this one's probably my favorite, and we might have to spend a little time with this one. Trump loses the election.
Yes.
And he's starting to rally support that unfortunately ends up with the insurrection in early January 2020, January the 6th. So he wants to hold a press conference. And who does he ask to do it? I think Rudy Giuliani, America's once sweetheart mayor and now America's face who's melting, a creepy uncle. What
happened to him? He went from 2001 hero, 9/11 hero, to just an absolute lunatic.
It's sad. He's like much like Kanye West. He's just lost it. But maybe not in the like sympathetic mental health way, but more in the like you've become a terrible person way. So maybe not like Kanye West. Not important. So Trump, I guess, tells his staffers, I'm throwing a conference right now. You better book me somewhere really important. And Trump, a New Yorker, Four Seasons Hotel, big chain. Trump's like, I want to do the conference at the Four Seasons. So somehow his staff books him the Four Seasons, except it's not the Four Seasons. It's some landscaping company in the middle of nowhere called Four Seasons Total Landscaping. An hour or two before, Trump says, big press conference at the Four Seasons today. And then he shows up in front of like a chain link fence, some semi-suburban industrialized area, like a corporate park where a landscaping company is headquartered. He gets up on a podium in front of Four Seasons Total Landscaping. And then I think the best joke that anyone ever made about it was like, this was the Four Seasons Total Landscaping presidency. That was so funny to me. Like, how do you go from, we're going to have our press conference somewhere important, maybe at a popular hotel chain that's very high end, to like Four Seasons Total Landscaping. The guy who runs the landscaping company embraces it. He like makes t-shirts and stuff. It just goes wild, and it just goes to show the level of incompetency of the Trump presidency, the Trump campaign back in 2020. I don't even want to talk about what's happening now, but that was for me a great moment in political gaffes for internet history.
I think for me and you, that really tickles our sense of chaos, abject stupidity, and just watching things unfold. I think that's where me and you connect the most. I think that's probably one of the best things that's ever happened in the world. To him being in front, essentially like a hardware hire place, it was dusty. I remember it being dusty, the chain link fence, and him just standing there with Four Seasons about just who had to get fired? for that. And I want to bring them on the show. If we could find out who booked the Four Seasons in 2020, I would love them to be on the show. I would love to speak to them and know what was going on. Danny, get onto it.
I feel like that'd be a good documentary. Just call it Four Seasons Total Landscaping Presidency and just really dig into how that one particular gaffe happened. Just beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And Donald Trump is so committed that he quite happily went do it. Like most people, as they're driving away from New York to this outback Four Seasons landscaping company, nowhere near Fifth Avenue or wherever these fancy hotels are in New York City, you'd have thought he'd have gone, guys, we're going the wrong way. Come, guys, hey, guys, guys, are you listening? But he didn't, and he just carried on and went all the way there. I wonder if he was like, this doesn't seem like the Four Seasons. And one of his staffers like, well, we're going to the Four Seasons. He's like, okay, it's the Four Seasons. It works for me. Yeah, that was just such a wonderful moment. I want to rewind to 10 years ago. Around this time in 2014, Obama held a press conference at the White House where he was talking about the increased threat of ISIS, the Islamic State, or Daesh, I believe, in Syria. It was Daesh then, yeah. Yeah, and he holds a press conference. And what does he do? He makes the worst mistake a president can ever make. It almost ended the republic. People were outraged. Women were fainting in the streets. I can't believe this country could let this happen. I thought we were a democracy. Obama shows up to a press conference in a tan suit. Oh, David. In England, we would decapitate people for that. In the 14th century. It was, up until about 7 or 8 years ago, a capital crime to wear tanned suits. Anyway, I think it just shows the decorum of the way politics were back then, because the Republicans, Fox News lost their mind over this tan suit. And like, that was the political gaffe. That was, that was something to be reported on. Like, they had nothing to go on back then. Now It's like, take your pick of horrible things that could take down the republic. But to then, the president wearing a tan suit could take down the republic. And it's like, I yearn for those times. When it was happening, I thought, this is disgusting. How is this the state of American politics? But now things are so bad, I yearn for those times. Now it's a lucky dip, right? It's a bag full of all the crap that's going on in the world, and you just have to put your hand in and pick something out. Tony, those were our days in internet history that were great. We did some silly ones, some memes, some viral things, some videos. Great days in internet history, and we just covered the political ones. Tony, thanks for doing this with me. This is always fun with you. David, it was fantastic, and I am going to go and research some more stuff on Pornhub. Well, we have another minute. I don't know. I just wrapped it up thinking there'd be some final thought. Like in Jerry Springer, when they do something outrageous, and then at the end, Jerry Springer comes out and he gives the final thought. He summarizes it. He gives it meaning. He makes the show serious. I was hoping you could do something like that. David, this is not the first time you've wanted a Jerry Springer moment on the very, very, very bad assumption that both of us think. Oh, just think anything at all? Just think. Oh, yeah. Tony. Well, I don't know. There's something I can tell you right now. I'm never going to give you up. I'm never going to let you down. I'm never going to something. I'm never. Or desert me. Or desert you. Yeah. Listener, have a wonderful weekend. David, And just like that, we got through our minute. Tony 5, he's in London, England. He shows up on this show most days. A recent study suggests that men with beards may be more stable romantic partners. Apparently, they're in it for keeps. We'll talk to bearded man Tony Tedesco, who also produces a myriad of radio shows at the iHeartRadio Talk Network in Canada, up next. Because boy, does that man have a beard. I don't mean woman that he's dating to cover up the fact that he's gay. I mean literal beard. He's here. He's a man about town. He has a beard. He is a producer at Bell Media of the radio program. I know this one.
Jerry Agar show these days.
Jerry Agar. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Jerry Agar.
Jerry Agar, Jim Richards, Shane, whoever needs me next. It's I'm the all-around producer.
You're Mr. Producer, Mr. Production.
That's it.
He's productive. And my guest is none other than Tony Tedesco. He joins us from Toronto. Tony, I haven't actually talked to anybody about the flooding. Were you at Drake's house when his house flooded? Toronto rapper Drake had his mansion flooded.
Yeah, no, I saw that on social media. I offered him my help, but he said, no, thanks. I've got it covered. So I didn't go over to Drake's house because,
He reminded you about the restraining order and
yeah, well, I live in Canada with, and we all know each other in Canada, right? So
yeah,
Drake and I are homies,
that's how I know you.
There we go. Exactly. Because we're Canadian.
Was there flooding in your area?
There was not really flooding in my area, like in my neighborhood itself, but no internet connection, no power. I went to bed before the power came back on, and even the data on my phone, like the cell networks were out, likely because of the power outages. So, yeah, it was sandwiches last night for dinner because at least I had that in the fridge.
Going to bed without internet is a very strange feeling. You know what I'm saying? Like not having television as a kid was the big thing, but now it's like, oh, no computer time. Like what did people do before computers?
Yeah, I wasn't sure what to do. I couldn't check my feeds. It was weird. I decided I'm probably going to buy a battery powered radio just so I couldn't listen to the radio. I couldn't do anything. It was surreal, and I literally had to put myself back to when I was a kid in the 80s, what did we do? And I thought, oh, I had dirty magazines, but I didn't have any of those laying around either. So
exactly. Those little Panasonic radios that are like $20 are amazing. Yeah. Like those used to cost $500. They're pretty good.
Right. Now you just put some batteries in them, and at least I'm able to listen to that radio station in Toronto that I work at while they cover the flood because I was comfortable at home. No power, but I was comfortable.
Okay, well, I didn't have you on the show to talk flooding. I had you on a show, on this show, right. on
this show.
Yeah. See, this is why they pay you the big bucks. You know what shows are. I apparently don't. There is a article in People magazine that my producer Danny, who you know, wanted me to cover with you. It's based on a study, and because it's People magazine, we know that the study has amazing scientific underpinnings. I mean, an article in People magazine is basically like a Nobel Prize of science. You know what I'm saying?
I'm going to put in a disclaimer. I had nothing to do with the funding of this study. I had nothing to do with People magazine maybe publishing the study. It had nothing to do with me and nothing to do with my beard at all. Well, but go ahead and tell people what this study's about.
It's based on a study published in the Archives of Sexual Behavior Research magazine. Mm-hmm. That's pretty good, Archives of Sexual Behavior. And it is as follows. It states, men with beards may be more stable romantic partners. In it for keeps, I believe, is what you're in it for.
Yeah. See, if you take somebody who shaves, they're constantly discarding the hair from their face, kind of like what they do in their relationships. Shoo, get away. I don't need any of this. I don't want to take care of any of this. So I will razor it away and discard it. Those of us with beards, we're keepers. We have to take care of it, tame it, oil it, massage it, all of that stuff. And so we get used to taking care of something. We get used to wanting to keep something. I'm never taking this thing off, by the way. So we're never going to it's rare that we would get tired of something, right?
This discarding your hair like people who shave discard their romantic partners. I feel like you practiced that one in front of the mirror, but I will say that's an amazing joke. If you didn't write that, then you're stealing credit for it, but it's an amazing joke. I trim with a beard trimmer. I have what's called designer scrubble, where you sort of have that short beard. I keep the beard. I don't discard the beard, but I keep it and I maintain it and I groom it and I water it and I shape it and I take care of it like I do my romantic relationships, Tony.
Right, because you've been in a romantic relationship for a very long time. So I agree, David. You are you're one of us. You're one of the bearded people, even if it is very fine, kept very fine. Beautiful. Love it.
Well, I did just trim it yesterday. The day before yesterday, it was running amok. Have you ever been with someone who's like super into beards? Like you're just a warm body with a beard? Because I know these women are out there. I've heard that they're out there, but I've never met one.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that, but that is really the first attraction for most of the people that I date is, oh, that beard, it's something else. And there are women in my life that I am just a warm body with a beard. That's what it is. I don't know what my face looks like anymore, and I'm afraid to shave this thing off. And I'm pretty sure that all the women that I've ever dated that have liked the beard, and most of them they've all said, never shave that thing off. If you shave it, I leave you. I'm with you because of the beard. So, yeah.
I was once with someone who I'm like, I don't even really like you as a person, and I don't think you like me, but I don't know. She was kind of attractive, and I was young and whatever. And then she stopped seeing me, and I looked at like all her ex-boyfriends that she had put up on social media, and they were all just like short, obnoxious Jewish guys who kind of looked like me. And it got me thinking like, oh, I was just a warm body. Like I was an empty shell. You just were into this one type, and I happened to be it. But to be honest, I wasn't that offended. I mean, what are you going to do?
No, I wasn't either. It's funny because I have a similar story. There was a woman that I dated for about 6 or 7 months. And I went through her Instagram profile, and all her exes basically looked like me. Like they had the strong nose, the thick beard. And I thought, oh, at least they're good looking. So.
Well, you're a handsome guy.
Oh, thank you.
The study further says the beard needs to be kempt. If it's bushy, unhealthy looking, dispersed, that may actually work against you. You're lucky. You got a very full, rather kempt. It's a great word, kempt beard, Tony.
Yeah, I mean, I think women are also, or men for that matter, partners. When they are looking at someone with a beard as a potential partner, they're obviously looking for someone who's kept, who does take care of that beard and does the odd trim job. I often get asked who does the trimming. I do, for the most part. Occasionally, I take the beard out to be spoiled and get a nice fade done on it. But for the most part, I take care of it. And I think people that are attracted to people with beard are attracted to the ones that are, keep it nice and kempt, to use the word that you introduced to us today.
But beards can be used as a cover. I get pimples every now and again. And when I'm lucky enough to get a pimple in my beard, I'm like, I'm not shaving that until that pimple's gone. They can also cover a jawline that's a little bit weaker. Have you ever hid acne in your beard, Tony, as a secret?
Not that I know of. Like, I haven't intentionally hid acne in my beard because I've had this thing for so long that if I had one little pimple grow in my beard, it's not as though I'm thinking I won't shave until this is gone, because I'm not shaving anyway.
I'm vain.
But I'll be honest, I'm getting up there in age, and I haven't seen my face in a long time. And, I might have gained a few pounds here or there, depending on what time of the year it is. I may be a little heavier or a little less heavy. And I know that double chin might creep up on me. And I know that the beard is keeping me nice and svelte, for lack of a better. My face looks nice and svelte because of it. I would have to say a lot of it has to do with my beard.
You got to be careful, though. I keep the stubble. I've had the stubble for 5 or 6 years, and about 6 months ago, I shaved completely with a razor. And I remember when I was younger, in my 20s, I would shave with a razor every now and again, and everyone would say to me, my coworkers, my friends, my partners, my family, they'd be like, wow, you look so young. And so the other day I shaved, maybe 6 months ago, and I went out and I went to the coffee shop. Nobody said anything. I came home to my girlfriend, and she didn't say anything. Nobody said I looked young, and it just made me feel old, is all.
You didn't get ID'd buying anything like cigarettes or whatever the case may be. Nothing. Just you didn't look young anymore when you shaved.
I do get carded buying Nicorette, but I think they just card everybody at the pharmacy.
It's possible. I, again, haven't seen my face in a long time. Don't plan on doing so anytime soon. So the only other option is to take care of this wonderful beard. And if any partners decide to come through the door, I will, obviously extend that ability to take care and nurture that relationship like I do with my beard.
Well, his name is Tony Tedesco, and speaking of seeing faces, Tony, it was good to see yours.
It's great to see you, stubble and all.
You can hear Tony's producing of various radio programs on News Talk 1010 Toronto or on any of the iHeartRadio Talk Network's various talk shows. Tony, thanks again.
Thank you for inviting me.
And thus the show ends. Thank you for listening. This is Going Well, I think. And on Friday, we sing. That's another week of This Is Going Well, I think, with David Cooper. Thanks for listening to all the stuff that I put out for you to listen to. I really appreciate that you tuned in to this show. I really appreciate it. I already said that. I hope you have a nice weekend and you see some of your family members if you're not estranged from them, because you should see your family or not. I don't care. I hope you will listen next week. If you don't, I won't do anything, because I'm not the boss of you. I'm not the boss of you, so do whatever you want. This is Going Well, I think, is the name of the show. I should have probably stopped singing minutes ago, but here we are. I'm gonna continue for the rest of this 2-minute track. Regrets, I have many of them right now, but I don't know if I can stop singing yet. Okay, I can now.